Connect the control and mount it on the jib. You want to turn it on and you want to set the slider to one direction or the other, all the way one way or the other. This is what your focus servo motor is going to look like. This is the lens bracket with the capture screw, and this is your tensioner adjustment here, and then you can see that the servo is actually sprung here. It has a tension spring on it. So the first thing you want to do is just mount the lens bracket to the side of the camera. Most broadcast lenses have this threaded mount on the side. If it doesn't, we have another adapter for that, but for all broadcast lenses you just want to mate the lens bracket up with the lens. Screw the capture screw in so that this is nice and tight, and now you can flip your servo motor assembly over, and if you loosen the tensioning knob so that this is loose, you can actually turn the shaft collars so that you're getting a lot of tension on here, and you just keep turning it till you think you have about enough, and then tighten the tensioning knob, and now the servo assembly is nice and tight, but we haven't adjusted it yet, so we're going to leave that. We'll go ahead and connect our cable, and just make sure that you line up the colors here. There's black and red, and so you just want to match your blacks up so that they go straight through. And you also want to connect your zoom control, and that's the round connector underneath. So you just line it up and screw it in. And then you can use your Velcro to dress the cable up here. So now what we want to do is, we know that earlier we moved our control one direction or the other, and at this end we can actually feel which direction that the gear is stopping at, and it's stopping at this direction. So we want to actually turn the lens, so if it were mated we would be all the way to that same direction. The other thing to note here is that let me lift this off, when you turn the focus, this is an external focusing lens, so as you turn it you can see that the focus ring moves backward and forward on the lens barrel. So you want to make sure that the teeth of the gear is not going to move outside of the teeth area here. So as we can see, we've got teeth catching there and we've got teeth catching there. If we needed to adjust that, we could just loosen this and move this along this axis. But we know we're in good shape, so we'll go back to where we were, and we'll go back here, and then we'll re-tension. We'll make sure we still have the clearance. I'm going to move it over slightly, and we still have our tension, and again we have the slider down at that end all the way in one direction. I can feel where it is here. We move the lens that same direction, then we mate everything up, make sure everything's tight. I'm going to tighten that a little bit more. Okay, so now when we move the slider, you can see that it's also moving the gear from infinity, which is here, and here's another where you can set a personal preference here. If you'd like for infinity to be all the way up, you can push the slider all the way up and reconnect it, and now you know infinity is all the way up, and then all the way back is If you're on telephoto and you zoom in, you can pull this lever back and actually focus the camera at whatever focal length. But if you always know that infinity's up, you can leave that there. And of course your zoom is controlled here on this control. You can switch Fuji or Canon here, and the on and off switch, and of course the focus control. So if over time it seems like this gets out of whack, all you got to do is redo the same steps. Set this for infinity and set your lens at infinity and reconnect the gears, and you're back set again. If it seems like the gear is turning a little further than your lens does, you can calibrate it here by, we can see that's the end of the throw. You can actually make a mark here on the control to say that's the limit of the motion that direction. Of course, this way the limit is the infinity. So we have different throws for some lenses turn a little further, some turn a little shorter. So you can make that mark, and or some people even put a piece of gaff tape over this so that you can't pull it past that point. If it seems like that the gear is chattering and you can hear it from the back of the jib, you can move the control a little bit. It's just trying to settle into a particular position. You usually only find this on lenses that are harder to turn the focus on. If it's a easier lens to turn, then the servo usually settles down pretty good. But you can also hear that it makes more noise if you go faster than if you just turn it slowly. The other thing you can do here is if you want to set up a rack focus, again, you could make the marks, and you could, at the appropriate time, make your rack focus move here by moving it to those two set points. So that lets you calibrate the control a little bit. This allows you to install and calibrate the gear and the servo to your particular lens. That's all it takes. Just redo this as many times as you need to. Once you get it set and you set it on your control, you generally don't need to reset this stuff at all unless you're taking the jib down and setting it up each time. For churches or studios where you're leaving the camera set up all the time, you generally need to just set this once and it's good to go. But if you need to recalibrate, just do it as you need to. But that's how it's done. Thanks for watching.